Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. There was no Los Angeles game last night, so we get to do on this show exclusively what I love to do, and that is cover the minor league system for the Dodgers. So there was some good action last night. AAA Oklahoma City, they got canceled. We were dealing with some weather here in the state of Oklahoma. Rancho, they had just one of those nights. They got beat pretty bad last night. So, hey, just one of those nights for Rancho. It happens over the course of a minor league season. And then, hey, Tulsa, they bounced back and they won last night, and Great Lakes had a really good win. And we have a lot of great action to get to in the three games that were in the minor league system last night. So, hey, one of the, not busiest nights of the year, but it's going to be a lot of fun getting you to talk about the minor leaguers today. But before we get into all of that too much, just a reminder, if you'd like to help Dodgers Daily by donating, we have a GoFundMe account. The link to that account is in the description. Just click that link and it'll take you right to the Dodgers Daily GoFundMe, where you can donate and help Dodgers Daily. Also, if you like this video and if you like this kind of content, click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, and become a subscriber. And then once you subscribe, click that notification bell, man. Hey, the war room, the comment section is just getting better by the day here at Dodgers Daily. Some of the most fascinating comments, the best baseball fans on earth are right here at Dodgers Daily. So keep leaving your comments. It is absolutely fantastic commentary in the comment section. I greatly appreciate that. And hey, let's all keep it up and let's keep our great Dodger talk going. Okay, so a lot of great action to get into last night. We're going to talk about Nick Frasso and his start and how, it didn't quite go exactly the way he wanted to, but we're going to talk about all the great action too. Juan Murillo came in throwing his big fastball last night. Christiansuarez was back. Damonkeith, he hit one right back. Damonkeith had a 115-mile-an-hour single the other day. He hit one right back at the pitcher last night. Luisdiaz, he just keeps stroking. And Tulsa, Alec Gamboa, very, very impressive. Johnrooney, Jordan Leasure, and Ryan Sublette, boy, impressive pitching performances last night. So, hey, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it, and let's take a trip down on the farm. The Double-A Tulsa Drillers last night, they won 5-3. Nick Frasso got the start. Wasn't his best night last night. He, hey, in the Dodgers minor league system, I mentioned this before, but if they throw 30 pitches in one inning, they get taken out. Doesn't matter if it's the first inning. They give you a little bit more leeway as the season goes on. Nick Frasso got to 34 pitches in the first inning last night, and he got pulled from that perspective because his pitch count in one inning had already exceeded 30 pitches. So he only went 2/3 of an inning last night. He gave up 2 hits, 3 runs, had a couple of walks, and no strikeouts. And he gave up 3 earned runs, and his velo was down to 94. And I know that, hey, he's been on, he's had injuries in the past, and he's missed some time this year due to some things. So, hey, a little bit concerning that last night Frasso, his velo was down. He wasn't quite as effective as he normally is. This is a young man with a world of talent. He's reached 100 miles an hour on several different occasions. And like I said in the past, he's had surgeries. He's had to come back. He came back with the Toronto Blue Jays, as a matter of fact, and hit 100 in the first whenever he was still with the Jays. Hit 100 miles an hour in his first performance back after he came off the IL. So this is a young man with a big arm. He's big and gangly, uncomfortable for the hitter to face. He has a huge future. So a little bit concerning that his velo was down to about 94 last night and not quite as effective. So, hey, Nick Frasso, we will keep an eye on his situation. Emanuel Vargas was easily the hitting star last night. I always talk about him. Hey, I call him the machine because he gets on base a lot. He led the Midwest League in on-base percentage for a long period of time, and he's a great combination of that and then also being able to hit doubles and then also hitting home runs on occasion. And he is a big dude. I'm telling you, I was excited when he made it to Double-A Tulsa. I did not actually realize how big he was. This guy is just absolutely yoked. He has a big frame to him. He is just unbelievably well put together. So this is a big, strong dude that absolutely looks the part, usually plays first base. He played right field last night. I do think probably he profiles at a major league level at first base, but if you can hit, we've seen with the Dodgers, they will find a defensive spot for you to play. they're in the process of trying to figure that out with Michael Bush. He's got this great hit tool, but where do we put him defensively? They've played him at third base this year more just to give him enough versatility where they can figure out how to get his bat in the lineup. That's Emanuel Vargas. Played right field last night. Definitely more comfortable at first base, but hey, when you can play infield and outfield, I saw the other day, they also, Oklahoma City, played Justin Yurchek in left field. These are guys that hit too well just to say, hey, they only play first base. So let's give them as many positions as we can to play defensively so we can continue to figure out if we can put their bat and incorporate that into a major league lineup someday. Emanuel Vargas had 2 hits last night for Double-A Tulsa, including what you're seeing here, which was his 11th double of the season. And like I said, he has great plate discipline. He has 3 multi-hit games in his last 5 games. I love this young man, Emanuel Vargas. He just has a really great hit tool. He's a wonderful young man. He plays with incredibly great energy that is contagious. He's that guy that just uplifts everybody around him and just makes the atmosphere just a little bit more positive and a little bit more exciting each and every night he plays. So Emanuel Vargas, keep your eye on him. Under the radar, I say it all the time, but a very, very, very good player with a lot to like. So, in professional baseball, there's an old saying that, hey, act like you've done it before. It's a kind of a confidence, it's a confidence, but not an arrogance, if you will, by the way that you carry yourself and the way you deal with success and also failure. Hey, the person that probably personifies this, have confidence but no arrogance, and then carry yourself like you've done it before, Ryan Sublette. His quiet confidence and just supreme competitiveness without being cocky or arrogant is just absolutely awesome to watch. It is an absolute model. If you have a young kid and you want to make a young kid confident, if you want to make a young kid have all that confidence but not irritate necessarily his teammates or certainly the other team to where they might want to retaliate against a teammate because there's no arrogance or it's not annoying or anything like that. It's just totally confident, and you just act like, hey, I expected to succeed. The guys, that you've absolutely turned the corner whenever you have success. You've done very well, and you don't get overly excited about it because it's something that you just actually expected. And it's like, okay, well, I did good again. Yeah, I expected that. And you just act like, hey, I've done that before, and I'm going to do it again. Those are the kinds of mentalities that I like to watch the most. And Ryan Sublette, every time I see him, I'm so impressed with that element of his game. He came from Texas Tech, the Red Raiders. And I tell you what, Tim Tadlock, if you ever watch him operate, of course, Tim went to Texas Tech out there, and hey, his teams play incredibly hard, but if you watch Tim Tadlock, it's like his blood never boils. You never see him crack a smile. He's never, overly excited. He's not a rah-rah guy. It almost looks like he's getting ready to take a nap all day long, but then you also see his teams come out and be some of the most competitive human beings in the history of the world, and so is Tim Tadlock. So, hey, you don't have to be that rah-rah guy. You don't have to be a cheerleader to have that competitive fire and energy in you and to get it out. Hey, very professional acting, Ryan Sublette. I'm sure he learned a lot of that from Matt Gardner, his pitching coach. Matt Gardner, an Oklahoma State boy, got to watch all of his outings at OSU while he was here as a Cowboy. I'm sure he learned a lot of that, just by having success for one, but learning how to deal with that in a professional manner. I'm sure he learned a lot of that from Matt Gardner and his head coach at Texas Tech, Tim Tadlock. And I'm telling you, man, super, super impressive. If you're a scout from another team, like I sat with Dave Holliday the other day, you're going to look at the side slot. That's going to get your attention. You're going to look at the 94, 95, 96. That's going to get your attention, but every reliever nowadays throws at least that hard. But what's really going to catch your eye is just the mentality of Ryan Sublette, and that's going to be the determining factor at, all these guys cross-check and they come to these games. If a guy gets Rule 5, one of the big jobs of Dave is, hey, when the Dodgers Rule 5 a guy, that's why he was there. He's actually a Phillies scout. He is actually scouting the Dodgers system, one, obviously, for trades, but then again for Rule 5 settings, because the Dodgers have so much talent that they know that not every single great talent is going to be protected on the 40-man when they have to be, by the timeline they have to be. So he's cross-checking the Dodgers talent to see, hey, in a Rule 5 setting, who to pick up, in a trade setting, who to pick up. Ryan Sublette and his mentality would stick out from that perspective to a guy like Dave Holliday, who is a scout of another team looking at other teams' talent maybe to pick up in the future. Okay, Sublette got his 5th hold of the season. He went 1.2 scoreless with 4 strikeouts. And hey, another great thing about Sublette, in only one outing this year has he given up more than 1 run. So, man, if you give him a lead of say 2 or more runs, you can almost guarantee the fact that he's going to come in and hold that like he did last night with his 5th hold of 2023. Okay, I'm getting ready to go on a little bit of spiel, so get some popcorn and sit down, because my man, John Rooney, young man who I had a chance to interview just a couple of weeks ago, I've already released that interview. If you'd like to check that out. I also have an interview of Jordan Leasure as well. That was a Zoom interview that I did in the offseason, but Rooney, I just did a couple of weeks ago. Okay, now there's been some injury, I know that, in 2021, but I'll tell you what, man, this is his 3rd season at AA Tulsa. He's having a great year. He is absolutely ready for AAA. I mean, I know that the organization is stacked, but having said that also, hey, man, when you have a 6'5" left-hander that can hit 94, 95, 96, that has that pickoff move right there, the Dodgers are struggling with stolen bases, and he can get outs at the clip that John Rooney is getting right now, is an awesome young man. I think he's ready for a promotion. I don't like doing those kinds of things and making predictions because I'm always wrong. And hey, this front office, they absolutely know what they're doing. I think there's been about 120 transactions at the AAA level. And I mentioned in the last show, probably the team that has been affected by that negatively the most has been Tulsa. I think that, one more transaction, and also Alec Gamboa. I think Alec Gamboa, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, and then Alec Gamboa, also a lefty, and then John Rooney, man. Hey, they've done everything they can at the AA level. Kudos to these young men. They just continue to have a great process in getting ready for every single performance that they're given at the AA level. I'm sure they know that, actually Alec Gamboa went up to AAA Oklahoma City for a week or two. Hey, they just needed, they just needed an arm for a couple of outings, so he went up to Oklahoma City, came right back down to AA Tulsa. But hey, John Rooney, wonderful job last night. So, just kind of want to get that out there. It's just my opinion that Rooney he was in AA 2021 as a starter, got hurt, came back last year, transitioned to the pen. Then in the offseason, they moved him more to an east-west pitcher. So they ditched the 4-seam and changeup, and they gave him a cutter and, a slider type thing that moves more east and west, and it has been absolute nails for John Rooney. Just want to get that out about him, that I think that he is ready for AAA. And just a reminder, in case he watches this, it's exactly 106 miles from One Oak Field in downtown Tulsa to the Bricktown Ballpark, and all the toll passes on the Turner Turnpike now, hey, they are automatic, so you don't have to carry any change. Super, super, super proud of left-handed pitcher Alec Gamboa. Not going to sugarcoat it. There were times last year, although his wins and loss record looked really good. I believe he started last year 9-0. He started this year 7-0. There were periods of time last year to where, hey, Alec Gamboa struggled. You're like, hey, man, we've got to get this figured out, and we got to get back on the high side of things here as far as the pitching goes. So hey, he came into this year, and this was going to be kind of that year where the rubber was going to meet the road for him. And boy, I'll tell you what, you talk about one competitive dude. This guy was an all-state wrestler, and he also was, you name it, on their team. He played a little bit of quarterback, a little bit of H-back, a little bit of running back, a little bit of receiver, you name it. Awesome football player, and then obviously an incredible baseball player and pitcher as well out of Central Valley there in the Fresno area, Madera, California. Hey, hello, Madtown. Alec Gamboa is absolutely dealing right now. I call him the artist because, hey, right there, he paints the corners. He brings that paintbrush and likes to paint those corners when he is absolutely on. So he came into this year knowing this was a huge year for him. He had been in AA, kind of like Rooney, for quite a while now. He really needed to show out, and the rubber was going to meet the road. And so, hey, this was kind of going to be, hey, I'm either going to make my career right here, or it might go away here fairly shortly. One of those kind of crossroads for Alec Gamboa, if you will, getting a little bit older. And I'll tell you what, man, he has absolutely met that challenge, plus some. 2.08 ERA, 7-0 record, whip of 0.97. And so, hey, in this year where the rubber meets the road for Alec Gamboa, he is just cruising right on down the road. AA Tulsa has two really great closer candidates, Jordan Leasure being one of them. You saw Jake Pilarski in the last outing, that last show that I had. You saw actually live video that I got of him from sitting behind home plate. Pilarski was hitting 99. So does Jordan Leasure. He was hitting 98 on the stadium gun, and I can tell you for a fact, I have actually sat behind the guys who do all of the TrackMan stuff for the Naturals, the Royals. The two guys that I talk to, they actually follow the Northwest Arkansas Naturals everywhere they go, and their job is to put all the TrackMan data into the system for the organization to read as it's actually happening. And it's really cool. I get to see their laptop. I get to see all the velos. I get to see the horizontal break, the vertical movement. And I actually sat behind them on a night that Jordan Leasure was pitching, and I can tell you the stadium gun was fairly consistently at least 1 mile an hour below what they were getting on the TrackMan system. So the stadium gun was reading 98 last night. Likely, to the TrackMan system, 99, and I promise you Jordan Leasure will hit 100 miles an hour in his career someday. So you have two guys at the AA level. Look at that. You tell me, just watch Jordan Leasure pitch. Look at that uncomfortable leg kick. Look at the uncomfortable arm slot that you'd have to face as a hitter, and then high velo, and then watch as he separates the ball from his glove. Watch, he's a dropper, so watch right there. And so that means that he hides the ball, and the hitter doesn't see the ball until he releases it. So that adds an element of deception. So, hey, his perceived velocity is going to be very good. So that 90, look at that slider to match with the 99. That is just an elite pitch right there to play off of his fastball. So, hey, two great closer candidates. Jordan Leasure, if you talk to anybody back at the University of Tampa, they just go on and on and on about, hey, first of all, kind of like James Altman or any of these other guys, that if you talk to the people that have coached them in the past, they'll go on and on about the type of person they are, their work ethic, their element, the type of teammate they are. Gavin Stone's another guy like that, all of them actually, but about the type of person and teammate they are before they'll ever talk about how great of a baseball player they are. But another thing, Jordan Leasure, hey, Jake Pilarski's kind of that Pittsburgh, just, hey, fiery in your face, just really excited, just, hey, ride some adrenaline and get that adrenaline up above 100 miles an hour. Jordan Leasure has that same kind of adrenaline, but kind of like Ryan Sublette, he's a little bit more subdued with it. Nothing ever bothers Jordan Leasure. He never, my old phrase, pitch with emotions or play with emotions, but don't be emotional. He absolutely is that to a T. He's able to ride adrenaline to get that thing up around 100, but not let him, become emotional to where he's just riding the effect of every single pitch. So, hey, I think Jordan Leasure is an absolutely 100% high leverage guy that the Dodgers, and again, not a top 30 prospect guy. So that goes to show you the top 30 prospects list. They're fun, but, hey, not always, the gold standard as far as who are the guys that are actually progressing through the system. A guy that I think is going to be a high leverage pitcher for somebody in the major leagues for a long time and be very successful at it. The Dodgers have so much talent. We'll see if it's with the Dodgers. You never quite know. All these guys know that every time they take the field, the Dodgers are so loaded with talent. Just do math. Not everybody who is great in this system is going to get to do it with the Dodgers. So they know that every time they take the field, they are auditioning for 30 different teams. I just mentioned I sat with a scout from the Phillies just the other day. So there's scouts growing all over these fields and these stadiums, looking at the Dodgers' talent, knowing the Dodgers have the best talent in all of baseball, looking to scoop somebody up in a trade, looking to scoop somebody up like last year in the offseason where the Cardinals got Guillermo Zuniga, and or like the Pirates got Jose Hernandez, who is doing very well at the major leagues in a Rule 5 setting. So Jordan Leasure, man, what potential, what a future he has ahead of him. I love this young man, Jordan Leasure. Luisdiaz was the hitter of the day, no doubt about it, in the organization. Hey, he had 3 more hits yesterday for the Great Lakes Loons, who, by the way, they pounded out 13 hits, scored 9 runs, and they beat the West Michigan Whitecaps, the high A affiliates of the Detroit Tigers. They beat them 9-4 to move to 45-20 on the season. Congratulations, Great Lakes Loons, the best first half record in the history of the franchise. This has been a group I've mentioned a couple of different times. Hey, there's about 4 or 5 guys on here that eventually could be major league managers. You talk about Taylor Young, and then you had Austingauthier for a while, and all those guys that have just Dalton Rushing with just extremely high IQs. Alex Freeland has a great IQ as well, and guys that are just maybe the highest IQ baseball team of any team I've ever seen, and all of that has translated to very good success on the season. So 13 hits, 9 runs last night. You're seeing right here, Luisdiaz had 3 hits as well. So, hey, Luisdiaz, how hot has he been? Another 3-hit day for him. That's his second 3-hit day in a row. It's his third 3-hit day just this month. Luisdiaz has 5 multi-hit games this month, and he's raised his average in the last month, basically in the last 31, 32 days. He's raised his average 111 points. Golly Moses. This dude has been absolutely on a tear, Luisdiaz. Griffinlockwoodpowell, hey, he's called Lock, man. He's a good player, and he caught last night. He didn't play catcher. I guess that's kind of a weird way to say it. He caught last night. He played some first base. I'm sure he could play outfield. Another guy that, hey, just trying to get that really good hit tool. I love the way that he goes the other way with pitches. I love the way he uses the middle of the field, just like that. Hey, that middle of the field, there's a lot of area to cover. You see right there, he didn't hit it very hard. But when you talk about left center to right center, that's a lot of area just for one outfielder, the center fielder, to cover. So all of your base hits, all of your doubles, man, the most of them, I should say, the big part of the field, the middle of the field, right there. Powell uses the middle of the field very, very well. And then he's also able to do this right here and pull the ball. So when you have a big guy that's able to get base hits like that and then also have some power, you try to make him as versatile as possible. We talked about that with Emanuel Vargas just a minute ago. So catching last night, liable to play first base tonight, might play some outfield. You never know where you're going to find Griffinlockwoodpowell. And hey, he was back home. He went to Central Michigan. Go Chippewas. Okay, and he was at West Michigan last night, so he was back home and very comfortable, and I'm sure that he had a million different requests for his family and all sorts of people to come watch him play, maybe teammates back in college, maybe his college coach this time of year. Maybe they have a down minute or two to go watch somebody like Locke play. But he had a couple of base hits last night, Locke did, for the Loons, including you just saw his 10th double of the year, and that made back-to-back multi-hit nights for Griffinlockwoodpowell. And like I said, multitude of talents, and so keep your eye on Griffinlockwoodpowell. My man Bubba Allen, Chris Allen, I asked him whenever I interviewed him, hey, how'd you get the nickname Bubba? And I was expecting, hey, maybe he went fishing or sometime and he had some redneck friends and this or that. Of course, me being from Oklahoma, that would be the most logical thing that you would think of. And his best friend, whenever they got drafted, the guy that he actually roomed with last year at Rancho, Taylor Young, is from Louisiana. And so they kind of have a back and forth of, hey, Taylor's going to go up to Philadelphia and Bubba's going to feed him some Philly cheesesteak, and then Bubba Alleyne's going to make it down to West Monroe, Louisiana, and then he's going to get some of that good Monroe Cajun gumbo and jambalaya. So, hey, and we're going to see who likes the other's food the best. And Bubba was very adamant that he thinks that Taylor Young is going to like the cheesesteaks more than he's going to like the gumbo. So that was a neat little back and forth between with Bubba Allen. So I asked him, hey, how did you get the nickname Bubba? And I was expecting one of those types of stories, and I got, well, hey, I used to hang around, these guys, and they had some young this family, and they had this young kid and couldn't pronounce my name, and it just always came out as Bubba, and so that became a nickname, and it stuck with it. So Bubba Allen, the last year the Big Ten, I never know what to call it. The initials are B1G, and there's not 10 teams in the conference, but it's still the Big Ten. So let's call it the Big Ten Player of the Year, starting to get hot again. Slow start for him, no doubt about it, but he's warming up as the weather warms up as well. He had 2 hits last night, and he has hits in 4 games in a row. Okay, so I kind of talk about some of the mannerisms of these guys. You know, I talk about the composure and the way to act confident, but not arrogant like Jordanleasure and that type of process. You know, when I get asked, hey, who should you emulate as far as the type of game a kid should have, Bubba Allen is always one of the first guys that I think of because of just the infectious energy that he plays with. He's always excited to play baseball. He's always very high energy, always just very, very, very positive vibes. I'm telling you, after I got through talking to him in our interview, I was just in a good mood. I mean, when you're around Bubba Allen, whenever, you talk to him, whenever you're a teammate of him, or just if you get to talk to him in an interview, he just puts you in a good mood. That is infectious. It's contagious. And when you're around somebody like that, as closely as you are in a clubhouse, in a dugout, hey, they're in their clubhouse and around their teammates more than they are their family as they're playing. So when you're around a guy that much and he has that infectious energy and puts you in a good mood, that is invaluable. So, hey, Bubba Allen, every chance I get to talk about just how great he is, I take advantage of it. Love this night, little short, compact swing. I mean, not a lot of movement, not a whole big old long load, nothing real fancy to the setup of Frankrodriguez, better known as F-Rod. Just kind of goes straight and direct to the ball. So nice, short, and compact for Frankrodriguez. Another one of those guys, kind of like griffinlockwoodpowell, can play first base. Haven't ever seen him play outfield, but I bet he could. But his main position is catcher, so add him to the catching depth in the Dodgers system. He had 2 hits last night, and he has hits in 4 of his last 5 games. Like I said, hey, use the middle of the field. Short, quick, compact, nice swing for Frankrodriguez. Well, you talk about a young man who has been smoking on. Ouch, watch that. Oh, that does not feel good. Wow, thank goodness it didn't hit him any higher in his body, up around the head area. Bam. And the thing about this is Damonkeith about 3 days ago had a 115-mile-an-hour base hit. 115 miles an hour. I don't know what the exit velo was on that, but I do know that Damonkeith is capable of hitting, some elite exit velocity type hits. So that did not feel good for that pitcher. And like I said, thank goodness it didn't hit him in a spot that could have been even. I'm sure, hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not minimizing the amount of pain he was in, but it could have been a lot worse as far as the position of his body hit. Probably took the wind out of him, and I'm sure as I speak right now, it does not feel good at all Friday morning. That's tough. Okay, Damonkeith, 354 this month. I love this young man's hit tool. Right back up the box, right there. I talk about with him, sometimes I think he gets pull happy. I think the front side pulls out, and I think that makes his, him swing with more of a negative bat angle, meaning the barrel goes below the hands, and then his hands also lift. He gets into those traps, I should say, from time to time. I think he's a little bit of that trap early on in the season when his numbers didn't look as good. But, hey, you look at that swing right there, going right back up the box. The reason that, hey, if you should train at what I call 10 degrees, a 10-degree line drive, if you go to a batting cage and you back up 40 feet, okay, back up 40 feet from the back of the net, and then put a kid on a tee, and then just tell him to hit where the top of the net meets where the net comes back down, that turn right there at the back of the net. If a kid can pelt, hey, right back up the middle, right there at that corner of the net to the back of the net, 40 feet from it, that's exactly a 10-degree line drive. Okay, every hitter should practice 10-degree line drives right back up the middle. Why is that? Because if you hit this right here, that 10 degree right there, okay, that's going to go right back up the middle and into center field. It's going to be a line drive. Okay, you want it to go right over the pitcher's head, right? Actually, this is a little bit lower than 10 degrees. Your goal is to hit it right over the pitcher's head and then right into center field, maybe one hop into the outfield. So why do you do that? That's because if Damonkeith right here is a little bit early, okay, then the ball is going to go into left center. And then if he's a little bit late, the ball is going to go into right center. Okay, and also if he's a little bit early, okay, then he's going to hit a higher line drive at, say, 20 to 25 degrees, and line drives are good. Then if he's a little bit late, he's going to hit about 102-mile-an-hour ground ball between the first baseman and second baseman. So all of that to say, hey, if you will just practice trying to hit line drives right over the pitcher's head, that gives you the longest window and the largest margin for error for timing. And so when I see Damonkeith hit balls like this, that gets me excited. Not excited for the pitcher, obviously, because that hurt. Okay, and that's why he has absolutely hit so well as of late, hitting .354 this month. So far in June, he has 6 multi-hit games this month, and he has 15 for his last 39 with 5 extra base hits, 9 RBIs, 15 runs scored, and 22 total bases. This dude, Damonkeith, is a stat stuffer. My man, Max Hewitt, I have not had a chance to post on him. He's basically been a bullpen catcher for the last year and a half. Last time I saw him, he was at Tulsa getting ready to go catch some bullpens. They moved him back down to Great Lakes so he can actually get some playing time. Hey, at Oklahoma State when he played, I got to see basically every at-bat of his career. Oklahoma State has had some dudes, Robin Ventura, Jeremy Burnett, Pete Incavilla, who is the college century player of the century, I should say. So they've had some dudes. They went to the College World Series 7 years in a row. They were in the finals 3 different times. Gary Ward built a powerhouse there, just built a $60 million facility, probably the nicest college baseball field in the United States of America. I say all that to say some pretty impressive stuff has come out of Oklahoma State baseball. The mentality, the grit that Max Hewitt plays with is maybe the most impressive thing I've seen in Oklahoma State baseball. He is one of my favorite players I've ever followed. And hey, he never actually played in a College World Series, so that's a lot to say for a guy like me who grew up in the 80s watching Oklahoma State go to the College World Series every year. To say a guy that played for 4 years at OSU, never made the College World Series, but is still maybe your favorite player you ever watched, that's a lot to say about Max Hewitt. He is absolutely gritty. He is absolutely tough. He absolutely just digs in, and just great to see him get to play again. And I tell you what, at Oklahoma State, he came in as a shortstop out of Connors, and then they moved him to second base. Then they played him at first base. And then his last year there, and during COVID, not his last year, but in the COVID year, they moved him to catcher. So then he got drafted as a catcher. Now, who knows where he's playing. So I'll just say this. He's not a catcher. He's not a first baseman. He's not a shortstop. He's not any of that. What he is a baseball player. Get him on a baseball field. Let him play baseball. And around Oklahoma State, we had a saying about Max Hewitt. Hey, Max Hewitt is a mood because he is just such an intense young man. And my saying about him all the time is, hey, just give Max a chance and he will do the rest. Good to see Christiansuarez in the strike zone last night. I talk about it all the time. Hey, this young man has some good stuff. That sweeping slider to the back foot of right-handers, that backdoor slider that he can throw every now. There's that sweeping slider right there. Didn't quite hit the spot he was looking for. There you go, right there. He kept that one in the strike zone. That's the key to him. So you get that look right there to where it stays in the strike zone, so the hitter has to swing at it, and then you move it over an inch or two, and you throw that sweeper that breaks out of the strike zone, and you get good swing and miss. There's Luisdiaz, who actually played shortstop last night. So, hey, it's all in Christiansuarez's hands when he's in the strike zone. No doubt about it, like that right there, like we've seen so far tonight. There is, I believe, that is at first base, christianlockwoodpowell, I do believe. Okay, so Christiansuarez talk about all the time. The success is in his hands. Stay in the strike zone with that with that fastball and sweeping slider, and he's very good. And he's been very good as of late. Christiansuarez has gone scoreless in 7 of his last 8 outings, and his average against this month is just 190. So great job, Christian. Keep it up. Mama said there'd be nights like Rancho Cucamonga had last night. They lost 14-1, and they only had on the night 6 hits and 1 run. As a matter of fact, I'm looking through these hits. Nick Biddison had a couple of hits. Josue de Paula had a hit as well. Raindon Cone, shortstop, had a hit. Luis Rodriguez, who had a great night the night before, had a hit. And Kenneth Betancourt had a hit as well. So just 6 hits, but they sprayed those around to score only 1 run, and that was in the bottom of the 7th inning, and they got beat, yes, 14-1. Okay, but it was not Chris Campos' fault. This video will eventually start playing here again in just a second, I do believe, and or I need to rewind it. That's what I'll do for Chris Campos. Okay, so Campos went 1 inning scoreless to start the game. He was the opener, and then he gave way to the rest of Kelvin Ramirez came in, and then Jan Castro, and then Loban Reynoso, and then I believe Kenneth Betancourt, who as a position player, came in and finished. We've seen the eephus pitch from Kenneth Betancourt before, but not a good night. But hey, there was some good action. Hey, you know, Chris Campos, he was a shortstop at St. Mary's, and he's transitioned to being a pitcher. One of those guys that could probably be a starter. He could be a bulk inning guy. He could be an opener like he was last night. He could be a relief guy. Let me rewind this one more time. Lots of things he can do. Good arm, you know, and he's not real big. The thing about him, I got a chance to talk to him. You know, his high school coaches told him he was too little to even go D1 at the time, so he transferred out of Modern Day, and he moved on to where he actually got to a set of coaches that believed that he could accomplish anything he wanted to. He was able to do that. He got a scholarship at St. Mary's, had a wonderful career, actually played with Michael Hobbs while he was at St. Mary's, while Michael Hobbs was you know, setting the record as far as being the all-time saves leader at St. Mary's. So how cool is that? 2 teammates. Campos got to play shortstop while Hobbs got to pitch at the time, so that's really cool. So he got the D1 scholarship at St. Mary's. Then he got picked up by the Dodgers. So hey, if you're one of those people that have doubted him in the past, don't ever do that again, because Chris Campos is good, and he will absolutely prove you wrong. And from that perspective, so a good performance for him last night. He had a strikeout in 1 of his 3 outs and his 1 inning scoreless. But other than that, you know, hey, not a whole lot of highlights for Rancho Cucamonga. Again, they lost 14-1 to drop to 39-27. So there you have it. Not a whole lot of action in the system last night, but it was sure fun to cover. And like I said, got to go back to what I love to do the most, and that is tell stories and talk all about the Dodgers minor league system. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hey, go Dodgers tonight against the Astros. A big series starting at Dodger Stadium. So can't wait to watch Emmett Sheehan pitch tonight for Los Angeles. So again, hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you also tune in tomorrow. And also, just before we get out of here, just a reminder, we do now have a Dodgers Daily GoFundMe account, and the link to that is in the description. And also, don't forget to leave a comment, like this video, and share this video, and keep interacting, and make sure your notifications are turned on. As always, thanks for tuning in, and go Dodgers.